Well, Pam Bondi just got busted hiding video footage from Jeffrey Epstein's cell. You know that missing minutes on Jeffrey Epstein's cell footage that was released by the DOJ, a good 11 hours, less 1 minute? Well, according to new reports from media, that minute was never supposed to be missing. Which therein lies more questions for Mrs. Pam Bondi. Not only that, but Donald Trump has come out and made a rather unusual confession, if you will, or statement about Jeffrey Epstein, his island, and Virginia Giuffre. And you guys are going to need to hear what he had to say. I believe it's powerful. But before I dive into that, I want to say I am thankful that the tsunami did not get out of hand here in the United States of America. I was praying for everybody last night that had to evacuate. It was terrifying watching the X page of miles of cars not being able to go anywhere when the warning of the tsunami is like an hour away. But speaking of that tsunami warning, one young woman was standing out on the internet all night long, and that is Oprah Winfrey. You see that little blue line right there? That is the line that people could have taken in their cars to drive to higher ground. But the only other route was this red one. The problem was, according to people on the ground, the problem was that she closed off her little road there and wasn't allowing anybody through. But after backlash, Oprah Winfrey, I'm sorry. Oprah Winfrey finally opens it up, and she denies that she even tried to block it. This is on Breitbart. Oprah opens her private road in Hawaii amid tsunami evacuations, denies blocking access as backlash brews. This is your typical liberal for you, and I wanted to share that with you guys. But on to this testimony. Let's start first with Donald J. Trump. Take a listen to the first half of what he says here.
But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island.
So Jeffrey Epstein did something inappropriate. He stole people from Mar-a-Lago. And he actually expands on that in a minute. And he says, you know what? I never went to his island, but Clinton did. And these Harvard guys did. Specifically, he calls out Larry Summers. So there's a couple names I revealed, but that is not all that he reveals about what happened at the island. But before I get into that, I gotta tell you, did you know that you can save on average $1,000 per year by doing what I'm about to tell you? And it's absolutely free. I'm talking about Chapter, the sponsor of this video. Chapter deals a lot with Medicare. If you've ever handled Medicare, things can be really confusing. I'm talking about thousands of plans to pick from, checking to see, the rules are, what the penalties are. It gets really messy. And Medicare should just honestly not be that hard. And that's why Chapter is here. They're here to help you. And right now you can give them a call at 1-656-218-0111, the number right here on the screen. But if you're turning 65 or maybe you're already 65 and you want to look into switching plans, give them a call today. It is free. They are no hassle. They'll make sure your doctors or you have doctors that are covered. They'll explore every plan and find the one that is right for you, and they'll see if you qualify for extra benefits. So give them a call at the number on the screen right now. And by the way, if you want more information, there's also a link in the description box below. But with that, Donald Trump drops this bombshell about these people in particular, the Clintons and Larry Summers, and throws names out there, but he actually gets into a little more detail and drops more information about what happened at Mar-a-Lago.
Were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And because the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs.
In the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world in Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so.
Interesting, right? And I think this says a very powerful point about Donald J. Trump because, A, he's one of the only people that's ever really kicked Jeffrey Epstein to the curb. Like literally kicked the man to the curb, and he admits. And this isn't something that's, an unknown fact, but maybe a lot of you may not have heard about it. But yeah, he actually, I guess, according to Donald J. Trump, Jeffrey Epstein came into his spa and basically recruited people, stole people from the spa. One of those, Virginia Giuffre, who supposedly committed suicide, Epstein herself. Or whatnot, even though she said she'd never commit suicide. But anyway, she was one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, right? And he says, yeah, I believe she worked at my spa, but we kicked him out. We knew he was doing this. And once we found out he was doing this, we said no, and we got rid of the guy. Get out of here. We don't want anything to do with you. Again, he is a very... I think that really says a lot about Donald J. Trump. I know the left is trying to use that against Donald Trump, but I think there is a lot more to the story regarding all of that, right? But take a look at what, because I think this is also important. In light of what Virginia Giuffre, him saying that Virginia Giuffre worked at the spa, here's what she said about Donald J. Trump when she was questioned, right? And here it is. This is published by C3, but if you scroll down a little bit, I'm going to put the little... pencil on here so you guys can follow with me. And here's what it says. And it says, Jeffrey told me that Donald Trump is a good friend of his, right? But you never observed them together, never observed. And she says, no, not that I can actually remember. Not off the top of my head. No. When did Donald Trump flirt with you? That was the question. When did he flirt with you? She goes, he did not. That's inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey Epstein's home? No, not that I could remember. On his island? Nope, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? Nope, not that I can remember. In New York? Nope, not that I can remember. All right, if we could turn to the second page here. So this was her testimony, speaking to those involved in the situation, saying very clearly Donald Trump did none of the things that you're accusing him of. None of that. He was never there. He wasn't involved. And I think that completely vindicates Donald J. Trump. In fact, she put out another post kind of giving props to Donald J. Trump. And that's not something you would do if you were a victim, right? Virginia Giuffre, I am Virginia Roberts. I know # the client list of Epstein. I met Trump when I worked at Mar-a-Lago. Hopefully our new president again, which in other words, she wanted him to be president, right? Much to be tight-lipped about on the list, but also wary of who I tell. Only someone of your candor, like President Trump's candor, who knows what to do with the information could help. What are your thoughts and plans about setting things right in the Billionaire Playboy Club? Please DM me for more information. So she was out there saying, hey, Donald Trump, I know who you are. I will give you the information. I will tell you everything you want to know because you're the only one that could actually do something with it. So the left is spinning that video of Donald J. Trump in a way that it shouldn't be spanned. It actually vindicates him, in my opinion. Maybe you have another opinion on that. I'd like to hear it. But it says very clearly he kicked him out. He was mad at what he was doing. He was stealing people, recruiting people, hiring people, and bringing them to his island. And Virginia Giuffre being one of those. And she highly respects Donald J. Trump, and I think that says a lot. But with all of that, there's still one other thing that came up recently, and that is the missing minute from the video footage that was dropped of the cell area of Jeffrey Epstein's by the DOJ and the FBI. And here this is on CBS News. There was no missing minute in the original Epstein jail video. government sources say. The missing minute from the surveillance video at the Manhattan Metropolitan Correctional Center where Epstein died in 2019 may not be missing after all, CBS News has learned. When the Justice Department and FBI released nearly 11 hours of footage earlier this month, the time code on the screen jumped forward 1 minute just before midnight, prompting questions about the 1 minute gap. The video shows part of the area near the cell where Epstein was being held the night he died in what the medical examiner ruled suicide. And by the way, I showed that on Restricted Republic here on my channel. I showed the missing minute. And in fact, the missing minute is actually negotiable because some people claim it's 3 minutes that were missing. And they are saying that it's 2 separate videos that were spliced together, right? But anyway, it goes on to state that a government source familiar with the investigation says the FBI and the Bureau of Prisons and Department of Justice Inspector General are all in possession of a copy of the video that does not cut from just before 11:59 p.m. to midnight of the night Epstein died by suicide in his cell. What is unclear is why that section was missing when the FBI released what it said was raw footage from inside the special housing unit the night Epstein died, August 9-10, 2019. The recording came from what officials said was the only relevant video camera. Surprise, surprise, that was recording its footage from the unit. This video has been cited by multiple government officials as evidence of his suicide. Now, experts in surveillance video, including video forensic professionals, told CBS News that a nightly reset, which is, by the way, what Pam Bondi claimed was happening. She said the missing minute was there because there was a gap, because there was a reset that would happen every night, right? But this is what they say about the reset. I had to clarify. Experts in surveillance video, including video forensic personnel, told CBS News that a nightly reset would have been unusual and was not something they encountered in most video systems. Interesting. So in other words, that should not have happened. One thing that is clear, forensic experts say, is that the version of the recording released by the FBI was edited and not raw, as the government stated. Bondi and FBI Director Bangino and others have said publicly that the video should be released unaltered. So there you have it. Interesting, right? All this missing minutes, suddenly it turns out it's not so missing after all. Suddenly it turns out that the missing minute should never have been reset in the first place. Well, ultimately, I'll let you decide what you think about this missing minute, this Pam Bondi gal, and everything that is going on. I just want answers to all of it, and I think all of America does. But anyhow, with all of that, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.